Jane Austen, one of the world's most downloaded authors. The latest film of world her stories. Jane Austen's novel Pride and Prejudice grossed over $121,147,947 worldwide. When the BBC screened its latest adaptation of the same novel, it was watched by a record 18 million British viewers. The series was then sold to 18 countries round the world. There are Jane Austen fans in all corners of the globe, and special Jane Austen discussion groups on the Internet. Jane is today one of English literature's best-known and best-loved writers, the third most downloaded author after Charles Dickens and Mark Twain. In her lifetime she never once travelled abroad, indeed she hardly ever left the south of England. When she died in 1817, only 4 of her 6 novels had been published, all anonymously, and she had earned a grand total of £648.65, about $1,000, from her books. Now, nearly 200 years later, sales of her novels reach 35,000 a week. There have been film and television productions of not only Pride and Prejudice but also Emma, Persuasion, Northanger Abbey, Mansfield Park and the Oscar-winning Sense and Sensibility. The secret of her success, what makes her worldwide success so surprising, is the narrowness of the world her stories portray, 3 or 4 families in a country village, as Jane Austen herself said. However, according to Nigel Nicholson, author of The World of Jane Austen, the explanation for her enduring success is very simple. Her novels always end happily in a wedding. They are also very funny. Or, as the author P.D. James wrote, all the books have the same basic plot, searching for and finding the right mate. Just as in many other novels, you may say, but the difference is that, the lively characters she created, both male and female, are such that readers still identify with them 2 centuries later. The novelist Henry James even compared Jane to Homer and Shakespeare. The life of Jane Austen. Jane Austen, she was born in 1775, the 7th of 8 children. Her family were not well off, and lived in a rambling, old house in the village of Steventon in the Hampshire Hills. And so by the time she was 12, Jane was writing fascinating stories for their amusement. Although Jane never married, she had 3 possible opportunities. The first was a handsome Irish law student called Tom Lefroy, who she met in 1795, but who returned to Ireland a year later. The second, in 1801, was a young man called Samuel Blackall. Jane met him while on holiday in Devon, but he tragically died suddenly, soon after. The third was a large young man called Harris Big Wither, whose proposal she briefly accepted in 1802, but then changed her mind. For the film, as she hoped Jane knows for. She knew only too well that marriage was important for someone in her position, for the only work suitable for a penniless girl of her age was school teaching or being a governess. Thus, in her novels, both money and the institution of marriage have important parts to play. In 1801 the family moved to Bath, where she was very unhappy. To make matters worse, in 1805, her father died, leaving his widow, Jane, and her only sister Cassandra, also unmarried, even poorer than before. They had to leave their home and for 4 years moved from house to house, often staying with relatives. Finally, in 1809 Jane's brother Edward allowed them to live in a house on his estate in Chawton, only a few miles from Steventon where she had grown up. Here she was much happier and was able to start writing again. Finally, in 1811, her first novel, Sense and Sensibility, was published. Pride and Prejudice followed in 1813. In 1816, Jane Austen fell ill with a disease of the kidneys. She died on July 18, 1817, in the arms of her sister, Cassandra. She was only 41. Jane Austen, a star worldwide. The influence of cinema and 6. People see the movie and then read the book. Pride and Prejudice was voted in a BBC poll in the UK. The book the nation cannot live without. The actress Emma Thompson, who adapted Sense and Sensibility for the screen, went to Jane Austen's grave in Winchester to say thank you for the Hollywood Oscar she won for the film. As she said at the Oscar ceremony in Los Angeles, I do hope Jane knows how big she is worldwide.